Hey there, John Morris here, johnmorrisonline.com. Welcome back to another episode of The John Morris Show. This one I'm going to be going through a technique that I call a pattern of irrefutable facts. Now, sort of a tongue-in-cheek name, if you've ever seen those movies like A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, or I think it's like Lemony Snicket's, and they have these long sort of movie titles. That's sort of what I was thinking of when I came up with that, but it does accurately describe what we're going to talk about here. And ultimately, this is about how to be more believable to potential clients when you're talking, just throughout your entire communication. It's not necessarily something that you do in any specific part versus another and so forth. It's really more just about your overall communication and understanding how to be more believable. The more believable you are, then obviously the more clients are going to believe you. And as a result of that, when you say things like I'm reliable and I'm good at this and that and the other, and make sort of your points and reasons why people should hire you, if those are more believable, you're more likely to get hired. So that's what I'm going to cover in this. Now, what is a pattern of irrefutable facts? Well, you start with something that is irrefutable, and you do that in order to get agreement and establish a base of credibility and believability, because you don't know these people from Adam, right? You probably never met this person, especially if you're on Upwork or someone's just submitted a request form on your site. You really don't know anything about these people. They don't know anything about you. And so you have to start off by establishing some credibility. Now, you could list all your credentials and all those things, and you should do those sorts of things. However, again, just in the way that you communicate, you can come across as more believable by always starting off by establishing something that's obvious, something that's fact, and sort of unquestioned, and then you methodically and logically move from that fact to the sales point that you want to make in a manner that is difficult, if not impossible, for the customer or the client to disagree. So by the time you get done, they look at what you said and you've made your sales point, you've sort of made your pitch, but it makes logical sense to them. So, and they actually believe and agree with what you're saying. And this works because it gives you instant believability because they can't refute anything you're saying. You've started with something that is undeniable, and the conclusion you've reached from that follows a pattern of logic that they can understand, and it makes sense to them. And the result is they feel like they have to agree with what you're saying, that they can't deny the logic of what you're saying. And again, you can ingrain this into everything that you do. Now, I learned this selling shoes. I'm going to talk about that here in a second. Then we'll break down the 3 different parts of this. I'll give you some examples, and then we'll talk about how you can use this in your freelance work, whether it's on Upwork, your own site, etc. Of course, before I do that, I do want to encourage you to head on over to store.johnmorrisonline.com and help support the show. If you're getting value from these podcasts, I assume if you're continuing to listen to them, that you're getting value from them. So if you're getting value from these and you want to continue to support the show, allow me to continue to do this for you and not have to, sort of dive. I sort of have moved away from client work so that I can focus on doing this. So again, if you want to help support me doing that and continue to tell you what I know and what I've learned in my 12 plus years doing this, then again, I want to encourage you to head on over to store.johnmorrisonline.com and support the show. And of course, you're going to be supporting me and helping me, but you're also going to be getting some, I think, really good coding training in PHP, object-oriented programming, freelancing on Upwork, getting clients and PHP forms and WordPress plugins and all these different things, all these different courses available over there for you to look through. And to say thank you, I'm giving you, as a regular listener to the show, you can use the coupon code JMO at checkout for 20% off anything in the store. So again, I'd really, really appreciate that. And of course, again, it will help me to continue to do this on a regular basis for you. So store.johnmorrisonline.com, use the coupon code JMO at checkout. All right, so as I mentioned, I learned this. I first learned this when I was selling shoes. Now, it was taught to me, what it was called is called a Fab Technique. Fab stands for Feature, Advantage, Benefit. Now, I have since myself taken that what is a more specific idea related to specifically selling shoes and sort of I've abstracted that out into a more general technique that you can use just for being persuasive in everything that you say. So the Fab Technique worked like this. You started off with, in this case, Fab stood for feature. So the defining characteristic of a feature that makes it valuable is that is an irrefutable fact. I can point to a shoe and I can say this has XYZ technology. It has a leather upper. It has a polyurethane outsole. It is hand stitched. These are all things that I can point to on the shoe, and it's irrefutable. It's the same thing with a car. You can say it has a V8 engine. You can look and see it is a V8 engine, or it has a whatever it is. It has an actual full metal body. I don't know if cars do that anymore, but that could be something that maybe a car has a full metal body, so it's a lot more crash resistant. I don't know if that's true, but again, that's a potential thing that you could point to. That's an irrefutable fact. Anything that you're selling, you can do this with. So you start with something that is an irrefutable fact. From that, you make some sort of obvious inference. Now, again, with the Fab Technique, we had feature and then we had advantage. And advantage was an obvious inference from the feature. So if we said this shoe has a polyurethane outsole, that's the irrefutable fact. I can point to it, show it to you, that is polyurethane. An obvious inference from this that was an advantage is that polyurethane outsoles are lighter than rubber outsoles. Again, that's obvious. You can, that it's just known that that's the case. And so it's not something that is sort of, I have to do a lot of convincing to convince you of that. You can pick up a shoe with a polyurethane outsole and a shoe with a rubber outsole, and in 2 seconds go, oh yeah, that's a way lighter. Okay. So you move from an irrefutable fact to an obvious inference. The last thing that you do is then, from that, you point out a logical sales conclusion. So again, with the shoe, I would say the shoe has a polyurethane outsole. A polyurethane outsole is lighter than a rubber outsole. Therefore, your feet and legs will be less tired at the end of a workday with a polyurethane outsole. Now that fact pattern, from irrefutable fact to obvious inference to a sales conclusion, what I said about your feet and legs will be less tired, that's a benefit to the customer. This is a reason why they should buy this shoe over another shoe. And I've done it in a way where it's sort of irrefutable. They can't really argue with it. They can see the polyurethane outsole. They can feel the difference between a polyurethane and a rubber, and they can imagine in their head that if they wore one versus the other all the way throughout the day, their feet and legs would be less tired with the one that's lighter. So I've created a fact pattern here that makes a sales point that I want to make. That's important. It makes a sales point that I want to make, but it does it in a way that through and through is believable. You don't have to trust me. You can see for yourself everything that I've said is true, and the conclusion that I have arrived at is logical. So that is how this is used. That is the benefit of this. And so let me give you some more examples when it comes to working on Upwork or with freelancing and so forth. So one of the things that you might come across, one of the problems that you might deal with is you will, let's say on Upwork, you go over on Upwork and you tend to have a lot of freelancers over there that will bid really, really low on projects in order to get the job. And so you find yourself in a position where you either can sort of jump in league with them and start trying to lower bid them and underbid them and play that sort of game, and ultimately end up working more and getting paid less and feel like you're not getting what you deserve and that whole problem. So you can do that, or you can try and convince clients that it's better for them to spend a little bit more and get something of quality. And so if you're going to take that second route, which is the one I recommend, then you need to figure out how are you going to go about persuading them and convincing them. So one way that you could do that, and I've done this before, is you start off with some sort of irrefutable fact. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because what I'm about to say technically isn't an irrefutable fact. However, it is sort of a cliche saying out there that a lot of people naturally accept. So it sort of plays the role of an irrefutable fact, which is where you can get really creative with the different sales presentations and pitches that you want to make. So cliches as a salesperson are your friend. So this one is you get what you pay for. A lot of people accept that as fact. And so you start off by saying, hey, look, you get what you pay for. So that's the irrefutable fact. So paying for a cheaper developer, it's very likely that you're going to have problems and you're not going to get the quality that you want for something this important to your business and so forth. That's an obvious inference. You get what you pay for. So if you pay less, you're going to get less. That's sort of the obvious inference from that. Following on to the logical sales conclusion then, so it's worth paying a little more to get a quality developer to make sure that your job gets done right. And then you don't have to go back and then hire somebody else again. And in the long run, end up paying more anyway. So now again, the persuasiveness of that you can gauge for yourself, but you can get the idea of we started with something that they already accept, they already agree with. And we moved from that to making our point of why they should pay more for a quality developer. And of course, I am, or you are, that quality developer. So that's one example. Another one is that I think is really important is just leveraging the experience that you already have and using that to help sell people on why they should hire you. So, one of the things I talk a lot about is some of the past projects that I've done. And I use this a lot in sort of my own work and the things that I do. But I would start with something in order to leverage my past experience. I would start with something like this. So I've worked on projects for Michael Hyatt, Tim Ferriss, and Inc. magazine. These are really irrefutable facts. I've done those projects. I could show you the emails if need be, or show you the projects and the websites and so forth. So those are irrefutable facts. I have worked on projects for these people. An obvious inference from that, there's several that you could draw, but one that I used quite a bit to great effect. An obvious inference you could draw from that is I've seen behind the scenes what other successful entrepreneurs do. Well, that's not something that is really, I've worked with these people, I've built their site, so I have seen behind the scenes what they do. So it's sort of an obvious thing that follows from that. The logical sales conclusion then is I can teach you what they do so that you can be successful too. And I use this all the time with membership sites. I would say I built membership sites for Michael Hyatt, Tim Ferriss, Inc. magazine, all these different people. And I've seen what they do in their own membership sites. Some of the most successful membership sites on the planet. I've seen what they do. I can show you what they do and show you how to make your membership site successful as well. But you got to hire me to build it for you. It's a very persuasive argument that is outside of sort of my technical skill as a site developer and so forth. It's something that's sort of unique that I can play to that helps me to sell people on hiring me. So again, the whole idea is to start with something irrefutable, move to something obvious, and then finish up with a logical sales conclusion that makes the point that you want to make. So now the question, of course, is that makes sense? I see how that can work. How do I use this though? So the thing to do is, one of the things that a lot of freelancers don't do that they really should do is you should take some time to think about you as an individual and the sales points that you would want to make for someone hiring you. Any sort of savvy marketer, when they have a product, this is what they do. They look at their product and they sit down, and they don't try to write copy. They just make a list of sales points for that product, the benefits of this product. They just continually answer the question, why would someone want to buy this product? And they try to find as many answers as they can, and they just write them down to have sort of a raw list to work from. I highly, highly recommend that you do that for yourself, because ultimately you are the product. And so why would someone want to hire you? Answer yourself that question and write down as many things that you can. And then that gives you sort of your base of sales points that you want to make. Now when you're going to take these and put them into and you don't have to put every single one in every bio, but pick out the ones that you think are the best or the most important or the most persuasive. And when you're writing your bios and your proposals or doing blog posts or videos or whatever, these are the conclusions that you want to reach. Now, how can you tie those back to some sort of irrefutable fact? How can you create this pattern of irrefutable facts that make it so that your sales point becomes very, very convincing, logical, obvious, persuasive? And now you not only have the sales points laid out, but you also have a pattern for you to explain them to somebody in a way that is believable. And ultimately, what you're trying to get to is thinking about this as a way of communicating persuasively on an ongoing basis, not as a tactic, but more as a way of life, so to speak, a way of communicating. This is just how you communicate. And you've internalized the pattern so much that whenever you want to make a persuasive point, your mind just naturally goes, okay, I got to start with an irrefutable fact, obvious inference, and your mind starts doing all the hard work for you. And again, it just becomes the way you communicate and the way you ultimately sell yourself or any of your products and so forth. That's ultimately what you want to get to. But you do that by being precise, by being conscious of the process, lay out those sales points, build those patterns back to irrefutable facts, and then start using them in your bios and your proposals, your posts, your videos, and eventually you'll sort of just naturally memorize and internalize them. And whenever you go to talk about why someone should hire you, your mind will sort of default back to these things. So again, that's how to use this in all of your communication and your persuasion. Now, of course, we've talked a lot here about Upwork and getting clients and so forth. And obviously, Upwork being the number one freelancing platform on the planet, it is a great way for you to go about getting work. And there's tons and tons of work that's available over there for you to get. But you have to do the work of actually convincing people to hire you and being persuasive and all the things that we've talked about here in order to be able to tap into some of that work. And if you've never, it's sort of like if you've never coded before, you've never, say, written PHP code or any of that. If you've never been on Upwork before, or you've been on Upwork and really haven't had success, it's not a matter of you being cursed or Upwork being trash or whatever. You just have to learn the system. You just have to learn how it works. And once you learn how it works, then you know what to say, what to do in order to go about getting work. And so I want to help you with that process. One of the ways that I can do that is with my Upwork 101 course, where I actually teach you how to build your profile on Upwork, and we just sort of walk step by step through each part of doing that. Now, one of the unique things about this is we talk a lot about the idea of rank over relevance. And this is especially important if you're new to Upwork or you've been on Upwork and just haven't had success getting work. A lot of people focus really heavily on the rank side of things. But if you're new there or haven't got any work there, well, you don't have a job history. You don't have a job success score. You don't have any of these things that Upwork uses to calculate rank and help you show up more and help convince clients to hire you and so forth. So how do you go about getting hired when you don't have any of these things? And sort of the trick, the way around that is this idea of relevance. Because Upwork's stated mission isn't just to match clients with the best freelancers, it's to match clients with the best freelancers for their job. And so there's an element of relevance there, and it affects how you show up in the searches that clients do for freelancers, how Upwork displays your profile across the site, and also how you appear to clients and how convincing your profile is in getting them to hire you because of this quirk of human nature that we have where we sort of value and believe specialists more than we do generalists. And so anyway, what I do in this Upwork 101 course is show you how to use that relevance factor to build your profile to allow you to get going on Upwork if you're new, get going a lot faster than you normally would, and use that to your advantage to actually start getting work over there and then start getting all of these algorithms for job success score and rank and all these things working in your favor and sort of just take off from there. So that's the whole point of it. A lot of people have found it really, really valuable. I think if you're someone new to Upwork or you're someone who's been on Upwork and struggling, you'll find it valuable as well. Again, the link to that is upwork101.com. You can learn all about the course there. All right, that'll do it for this episode. If you liked the episode, be sure to hit the like button. Also, if you haven't, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Speaking of all the past episodes and all those subscribe links for iTunes, TuneIn, Android, all that, you can find it at johnmorrisshow.com. And finally, if you'll rate and review the podcast over on iTunes, A, I really appreciate that. It helps grow the show. But B, I will give you Module 1 of my PHP 101 course for free for you leaving an honest review over on iTunes. Again, all the details for that are at johnmorrisshow.com. Just click on the Start Here link at the top. All right, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.